Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk about research today, and I'm going to give you some pointers on where to look, how to look, what to use, what not to use when you're doing a research paper for a college course. Now, if you're logged in SPC and if you're in your class, there's different ways actually that you can get to the library. The number one place you want to look for research is always going to be in your college library database. The database is a collection of sources that have typically been pre-published before, that have maybe been peer-reviewed by experts, and it's the best kind of content to use for a college paper. Keep in mind that for college, you can't always go to the internet for a source. There are lots of college professors who will tell you that you can only use the database for your research. So you need to be aware of what kind of sources are acceptable and what kind of sources are not acceptable to use. And a lot of times you're just safer staying in the database. Now, to get to the database, like I said, there's different ways to do it. The way that I do it is that on the course homepage, I like to go to the bottom and you'll find resources, and then there's a library bullet point here, library resources and services. And when I click that, it'll take me to the library page. All right, this is a general search. It goes through hundreds of databases looking for information. It may be you will or will not find what you're looking for. It does take time. Research is really the longest part of the process because if you really want to find a good source, you may have to read multiple sources or review many, many sources to get that one good source that's going to be good for your paper. If a paper requires a source for research, throwing in any source may not do. The quality of your source will determine the quality of your grade. So it's important to really spend adequate time doing research for your college papers. Now, when I'm doing my search, I can search for things like if my topic is my art piece, I might search for the title, I might search for the artist. It really depends on how much content is written about that particular either work of art or that particular artist. So if I go to the search and I want to put in, let's say, self-portrait with Death playing the fiddle, which is the sample I have for this particular humanities paper, if I put it in quotes, it will keep all those words together so that they're not searching for, 100 sources about fiddles, for instance. I can also, if I want to, maybe put in the name of the artist and search and see what I come up with. Now, like I said, depending on how much was written about your particular piece, you might not be able to find anything with just the name of the art piece. You might need to do just the artist name and get a bunch of sources that talk about multiple works by that artist, and in that source find something about your particular artwork. So if I scroll down here, I mean, we can see I've only got 3 things and they may not be on topic. So this is probably too specific. I'm just going to back that up and then go with the name of my artist and then start looking through sources about Arnold Böcklin and see if they mention the particular painting I'm looking for, or maybe something related to it that I can use to determine the meaning behind that painting. So let's say, for instance, I want to read a source. There are lots of different sources. They come in all types. There are videos, for instance, and that's okay to use as long as the video is from an expert, which it would be from the database. Scrolling down, you get some of these that are called peer-reviewed, and I mentioned that word once already. Peer-reviewed are the strongest sources. They're typically not short. Like you can see how many pages. This is from page 238 to 275. Get used to longer sources in college. Most of them are the really good ones are 20 pages or more. That doesn't mean you have to read all 20 pages, but as you go through that source, you should find the section that applies to what you are researching and use that section. Okay. But like I said, peer reviewed are the strongest sources. And sometimes, especially in certain classes, they will tell you to only use peer reviewed sources because they don't want you getting your information from just anybody. They want everything coming from the experts in your field. So if I see a source, for instance, that I want to read, I can click on it. And then it'll give me just some basic information about it, like a little summary sometimes. And then it'll tell me it's available online. And this is where I can go, the full text availability. I can view it online and I can read the whole thing here. The nice thing about the database, and the reason why I encourage you to absolutely try to find something from the database for every paper instead of going to the internet, which you might not even be allowed to do, is to click on this citation tool and it will do your citations for you. Now, I may need to change my format. Like this paper is an MLA, not an APA. So I want to go with the latest edition of MLA I can find, which is the 9th edition. And if I click on that, I can copy this for my works cited page, which I'll also provide at the end of my outline and on my paper. And then I have this ready to go for my paper in MLA style. If I'm doing an APA paper, I can change that to APA and get the APA version instead. Okay, so that's the big benefit. One of the huge benefits of the database is they'll do the citations and you don't have to be afraid that you used a bad source. Like I said, bad sources make bad grades. So don't use bad sources. Now, when I want to check this source, I can click here. It will take me to it. I have encountered a broken link here or there in the database, but I would say 90% of them are good. I don't need to do this, for instance, because I'm already logged in via SPC. If I scroll down, here is the source. If I want to download this and keep it on my computer, I can. I should be able to download this PDF right here. And as I go through it, I can search for things about Bocklin and about self-portrait with death playing the fiddle. Okay. Again, these sources are not short. So you really need to start early once you get a research assignment. If you wait until the last minute, there's a chance you're not going to find what you need in time. So that's the database. That's the first place you should absolutely look. Okay. Now, if you are struggling to find sources, that's when you need to consider getting a tutoring appointment and having them help you look. If you can't find sources in your first 2 days of searching, it is time to get help. Do not wait beyond that. You're just going to frustrate yourself further. So let's say I'm searching the database and I can't find something to use. That's when I want to consider getting my tutors, my library tutors, to help me out. I'm going to switch that to student view so it looks like yours. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some tutoring. So up here at the top, library and tutoring exists. You can do them in person or online. So let's say if I'm an online student, maybe I can't go to a campus and I need to get some help, via the computer. I believe all the research help specifically is done in the online tutoring because they're going to Zoom with you. So I'll click on online tutoring if I want research help. And here it is, research. I need help finding stuff for my paper. I can then choose what day I want to have my appointment and at what time. And then I can book it right here. They will send your confirmation to your live email, not your My Courses email, but your live email. So don't forget, on your dashboard, you actually have, when you log into SPC, you do have an email here. If it's not connected, you need to click connect, okay? And then you're going to get your Zoom link through your live email, not through your My Courses email up here. Okay, it's going to be in the main SPC email. Okay. So once you get your appointment confirmation, you'll get your Zoom link, you log in at your appointed time. The tutor will help you search the database and help you find sources. This is super helpful. Really, researching can be the tough part of any paper. If you're struggling with research, get a tutor to help you. Don't wait. All right. Now, in many classes, like I said, they will not let you use the internet. Some classes will, provided you can find an expert source. So let me just go to the internet real quick. I have some tabs already pulled up for us. Here we go. Actually, let me go back a page. There we go. So let's say I go to Google and I do my search for my art work and my artist, and I get a lot of options. Just because it pops up does not mean you should use it. Please don't unless you have verified that is an expert source. If you're not sure, you should absolutely email that website to your professor and ask, can I use this website for my paper? Okay. Now, when you're looking at websites, you have to figure out who wrote it and if they are what you call a primary source. Okay, is it coming from an expert, or is it a website where they took information from various other websites and put them together for you? If they do that and they take stuff from other places and summarize it for you, then that's what's called a secondary source. And you should never, ever use a secondary source for college work, because you can't verify whether or not they summarized it correctly. And therefore, your information could be wrong. So when you're doing a search, there are some things you should look for. For instance, we know that we started here with Google Arts and Culture, right? Which we're using to get basic information. Stuff like this, or the year that it was made, or the name of the artist, or what museum it's in, that stuff is basically called common knowledge or commonly found material. Although not everybody has even heard of Bachland, this is the type of factual information you can find on a million websites, and therefore, it's also not an opinion, right, about the art, and therefore, it's okay to use that type of information without citing it. Like, you don't have to cite George Washington's birthday. Does everyone know that off the top of their head? No, but it's just so commonly found on the internet and other sources that you don't have to cite it at that point, because there are just so many websites that would give you that, right? And you can't cite all those websites. So stuff like that, you don't have to cite. Now, underneath the painting on Google Arts and Culture, we've got this information. However, there's no author here. It doesn't tell me who wrote this. It doesn't tell me where this is coming from. And because there's no information about where this information was retrieved from and where they got it from, and there's no author, I should absolutely not use this website for paragraph 3 of my research paper, where I'm supposed to talk about the meaning, because I can't verify that this is coming from an expert. So I would not use this information here on my paper. Now, going back, many people are familiar with Wikipedia. Most students know, never use Wikipedia on a research paper for a class of any kind. And the reason is because Wikipedia is a secondary source. Wikipedia is not an expert. It took stuff from other places, summarized it for you, and put it on its website. Again, we cannot verify whether all that information is accurate or up to date. We don't know who wrote the Wikipedia page. It doesn't tell you. So you should never use a site like Wikipedia for your research, because, there can be various contributors to Wikipedia. And again, we don't know all their backgrounds. So never, ever, ever use Wikipedia. Now, we then begin to find some other sources. Like this one here is by a magazine called Medium, which I have pulled up here. And this one talks about my painting, which is great, just a little bit. It's not too long, but it talks a little bit about it. And it does have an author. Does that mean you should use it? No, not necessarily. How do I know this author is an expert? If I click on their name, well, there's no biography whatsoever. I don't know if this person has a degree in art or a degree in biology. If they have a degree in biology, that's great, but I don't want to use them on my art paper. Maybe my biology paper, sure. But even if somebody has a degree in something, that doesn't mean you should necessarily use them for your work. Okay, if I'm writing a paper about, rocket science, I am not going to cite an author who has a PhD in English literature. That is not their field. So you have to make sure that the expert is valid for your field of research. And this person, although they have their name, they didn't give me any information about their degree, their expertise. Who are they? How do they know about art? I don't know any of that here. There's no biography at all. So I should not use this website, even though I got a name. A name is not good enough. I need to be able to verify they are an expert. So let's go back again. We'll keep doing our search. As I scroll down further, okay, I find other websites. I'm going to review all websites for those same criteria. Is it an expert, etc. Oops, and we can keep on going. Now here's another website. Let's say I click on this website as an example. Okay, And we have this website, Smart History. I've got my title, and this is a video. But again, that does not rule it out. It doesn't matter if it's a video or a website or a paper book. It matters who wrote it. Are they an expert? This says that this is by Dr. Stephen Zucker and Dr. Beth Harris. Okay, they got doctors in front of their names. I like that. That's a good start. I've got their names. But can I verify they are doctors in the field of art? Well, if I click on their names, hopefully I get some information about them. Here we go, Dr. Stephen Zucker. We've got a biography. Co-founder of this website, Smart History, Stephen was a Dean of Art and History at Khan Academy, Chair of History of Art and Design at Pratt Institute, Dean of School of Graduate Studies at the Fashion Institute of Technology, taught at the School of Visual Arts, co-authored a book with Dr. Harris, so it appears these two have worked together before. But you can see that this person has a lot of experience in teaching art and in the art field. Therefore, yeah, I would consider Dr. Zucker an expert for my art paper, right? If I go back, I'm sure I'm going to get just as good enough information about Dr. Beth Harris, but we can check. And here we can see they were the director of digital learning at the Museum of Modern Art. That's in New York City. Associate professor of art history, wrote articles about education and museums. So you can see there's a lot of information here that shows Dr. Harris is also an expert in the field of art, which means it would be okay for me to use this video that they created. If I click on the video, we can see that this is a discussion between these two experts about art. And so even though this is not a book or website, as I listen to this video, I can take my notes, and then I can use my information that I've gained from this video into my paper, as long as it's properly documented. Now, documentation is the next part of this process. Once you get some information, how do you use it so you don't end up plagiarizing? Keep in mind that just like using a bad source can reduce the grade of your paper, using improper documentation can do the same thing, because at that point, even if you try to document, if you don't do it right, you have technically plagiarized at that point. So we want to make sure we don't do that. So I've got another video that's just about documentation. How do I use this information that I've gotten properly so I don't have any trouble with submitting my work? Thank you for listening. Please feel free to watch over this video again if that will assist you. And, make sure that when you're researching and you're using sources, that you're using expert sources. Number one, go for the database, get used to it. Don't think this is the only class where you'll use the database. You're going to use the database a lot. You're probably going to use it multiple times a year in multiple classes. So if you don't like using the database, I'm sorry, but the more practice you get at it, the better you will get at researching in the database. So I do recommend you get that practice now while you're in your Comp 1 course. Like I said, some classes won't let you use the internet, but if you're allowed to, you better make sure those sources are expert sources. And if you have any doubts, you should email your instructor and ask about your sources. Thank you.